Joined now by Lindsey Graham. He's a senator from the great state of South Carolina. Good morning to you, Senator.
Good morning.
Senator, after reading the 7 pages, what do you now know about this situation that could tee up something for today?
Here's what I know, that the President of the United States is not under investigation for colluding with the Russians, either counterintelligence-wise or criminally. Comey tells us that. I've always believed that. Secondly, the fact that he's appearing before the committee tells me that Special Counsel Mueller has determined there's no obstruction case here, because if he had determined that, you wouldn't let your chief and only witness testify like this. So from the President's point of view, it's a good day. No obstruction of justice, no collusion with the Russians. The investigation will go on.
Yeah. So what do you make of the fact that the President of the United States came out and in, for instance, that letter where he fired Mr. Comey, he said, look, remember, you and I talked about how I was not under investigation 3 times. And it sounds like during one of the interchanges they had where he was talking about how the president was, how there was a cloud over his administration. And essentially, is there anything you can lift the cloud? He was saying, the way I interpret it, can't you do something to get the word out? I'm not under investigation, so I can get on with my agenda. Is that how you see it?
Yeah, totally. See, here's what frustrates the president. You know, he's not colluding with his own government, much less the Russians. So he's frustrated. I didn't do anything wrong, and this thing hangs over my head. Yeah. Well, there's a process here, Mr. President. Nobody, Comey is telling the country there's no evidence you colluded with the Russians, but we got a special counsel now, and he's got to do his job. So he's frustrated. I think he's frustrated that General Flynn, who got fired, is they're going too far with him. So if you got somebody you like, you kind of weigh in on their behalf. Right. The other side of the story is that you shouldn't pull the FBI director out by himself. You shouldn't be talking about loyalty. You know, if being rude and crude and sometimes a bull in a china shop is a crime, he's convicted, but it's not. Donald Trump got elected to be the bull in the china shop for the American people, to break up Washington, to get it to work for them. In this case, I'm convinced that the president did not obstruct justice, and so is Mueller, or Comey wouldn't be testifying, and there's no evidence of collusion yet, and you just got to be patient and let this thing go forward and get back to governing the country.
All right, so you say it's not illegal for him to ask for loyalty. It's not illegal for him to say that Mike Flynn's a good guy and that he hopes that he can let things go. Isn't this why the American people elected him, though, because he does things differently?
Well, I don't think the American people elected him to talk, to pull the FBI director aside and put him in an uncomfortable position. I think the American people elected him to cut their taxes, rebuild infrastructure, and change his damn place, and fix immigration. And you know what? He can be a hell of a president if he chooses to be. He wants to rebuild the military. After 8 years of Obama, I'm glad that we got a commander-in-chief who sees the military differently. I want to help him cut taxes, replace Obamacare if we can. That's what he got elected to do. Right. And here's where he's failing, in my view. He doesn't get that the reason he's in trouble is because of Putin. I don't believe the president colluded with the Russians. I really don't, but time will tell if that proves to be the case or not. But it's Putin that got all of us in this mess, Mr. President. He is not our friend. He is providing arms to the Taliban. He colluded with Assad to keep chemical weapons. And you need to go after Putin, because Putin's your biggest problem right now.
Right, Senator, I know you're frustrated that this is not in front of the Judiciary Committee. Yes. But if you had a chance to ask a question, you're a great prosecutor. What are the questions that you want to hear today? Because a lot of the GOPers and Democrats might be watching right now.
Well, number one, is it true that there is no evidence of collusion by the president with the Russians? Is that what you're telling us here today? Secondly, when it comes to obstruction of justice, you said to the whole world that Clinton wasn't guilty of mishandling classified information. Why can't you tell us whether or not you think what the president did with you was obstructing justice? Why can you let Clinton go and you can't speak directly regarding Trump? And oh, by the way, on May 3rd, when you were under oath, didn't you say that nobody was interfering in the investigation, put any pressure on you? I'm not here to beat up on Mr. Comey. He served his country well. Both parties thought he had to leave. It's not about Comey, it's about Russia. The one thing I can tell you about our president, as of this moment, He is not under investigation for colluding with the Russians, and I don't believe anybody with a legal background could prosecute this case for obstruction of justice. And I wouldn't beat on Comey. I'd just make those two facts, lay out those two facts, and I'd move on.
Sure. Right. What do you make of the rumors that there's trouble in over the Department of Justice between the Attorney General and the President of the United States? The President has been steamed that he recused himself when he felt he did not have to over Russia. And, you know, there's some suggestion that he offered to resign, according to anonymous sources. What do you make of all this?
I think if Jeff Sessions resigned from this administration, it would be a great loss for the country and the president. And I want to be as direct as I know how to be. I've been a lawyer all of my adult life. If you think somebody involved in a campaign can investigate the campaign, the American people won't let that happen because it doesn't pass the smell test. At the end of the day, there's no evidence of Trump's campaign colluding with the Russians yet. But to suggest that Jeff Sessions, who was an integral part of the campaign, could ride herd over this investigation was never going to happen. It shouldn't happen. Jeff Sessions had to step down under the canons of ethics and the recusal rules of the Department of Justice and just common sense. So if you're mad at Jeff Sessions, then you're mad. That's misplaced madness. Jeff Sessions did the right thing, Mr. President. He had no choice. Get back to govern this country and take Putin on. He's the one creating all this mess, not Jeff Sessions.
But he told the Secretary of State to repair their relationship. That was even over the last week. That's been reported. Now, you know what it's like to run
You're not going to repair this relationship until you hold Russia accountable for killing our kids, trying to help kill our kids in Afghanistan, and interfering in our democracy. You know, Putin's a thug, a murderer, and he, you know, I'm not interested in repairing this relationship. I'm interested in resetting it, not like Obama and Clinton. Don't be weak like Obama and Clinton.
Senator, you know what it's like to run these hearings and be at them. Do you believe that these Republicans have teamed up at all and have a strategy, being that they get 7 minutes each over the course of hours? You know, Democrats are great at that. Do you think Republicans have? A lot of these people are your friends.
They're great people. They're all talented. We strategy well. Yeah, I'm sure they've talked with each other, but I said a nothing burger. You can have him on for 15 days every day, and here's what it comes down to. He tells us that the president's no evidence of colluding with the Russians, and nobody in their right mind would let this guy go forward as a witness if you believe there was an obstruction of justice case. Russia is your only witness. You can take everything he said, believe every word of it. It is not a crime. You can say that President Trump was inappropriate at times, and you would be right. So there is no there. President Trump needs to up his game and get back to governing this country. So at the end of the day, this is cable chatter. Should he have been pulled out and talked to by himself? Well, maybe he shouldn't have been, but he was. But if he thought it'd been a crime was committed, he had done something about it. He didn't do a damn thing. He didn't call the Department of Justice. He didn't quit. And then May 3rd, he said nobody bothered him. That was before he was fired. So put this in context.
Yeah, hold on a second, Senator. Are you suggesting what we do is cable chatter? Is that what you're calling it?
Yeah, totally. Not y'all. No, this is high-level stuff here.
That's
but other places, it's just chatter.
You know,
Good answer.
It is extraordinary.
Clearly, this is the last show of the morning for me.
All right. Thank you very much. Lindsey Graham, the senator from the great state of South Carolina.
Go Gamecocks.
Thank you, sir.
Go Gamecock.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
All right.